What's up, guys? So today I want to talk about the infamous gay bar known as the Eagle. So I, for the longest time, thought there was only one Eagle, and that was the Eagle in New York City. Um, but then I moved to LA and found out there's one here. Not only here, there's one in Tokyo, there's one in San Francisco. I've never been to those. I've only been to the one in LA and New York City, which is why I want to compare the one in New York to LA. But there's apparently Eagles in a bunch of other places. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, the Eagle is the quintessential leather bar. Now, I've never gone there wearing any kind of leather outfit. I would say most people are just wearing, regular street clothes, hanging out casually with their friends. But the reason this bar has become notorious is because of that history of being a leather bar, and also just some of the activities that take place at the Eagle. So I would say 90% of people there are, again, dressed like this, hanging out the way that people do at bars. But then there's the other 10%, which gives the Eagle its unique identity. And that's the 10% of guys who show up and are shirtless, or they're wearing some kind of leather outfit, or they're participating in naughty activities, which is why I like to call the Eagle a naughty bar. Starting off with the one in New York City, I will never forget my first time there. I had this connection with this guy who had warned me about this bar, and he was like, you can't go to this bar by yourself, like most men there are much older and it's a more kind of aggressive culture. So I remember being 21 thinking I'm never going to that bar, and then of course like months later this new friend that I had made was like, let's go to the Eagle. So I'll never forget my first time being a little wary of what I was getting myself into. It is definitely, compared to the average gay bar, it's a much older demographic, a lot of like bears and otters. It's just a different crowd from your typical like yuppie, 20 or 30 something year old gay crowd at a bar. I remember being 21 there and thinking it was a huge maze, because the one in New York City is multi-level. There's the first floor, the second floor, and then in the summer they have the rooftop open. And these are all old buildings, right? It's New York City, so it's not like you take the elevator straight to the roof. There's a bunch of stairs, and there's even like a fake alley on the first floor in the way back. So I remember my first time going there and being like, this is fun. It's like a maze. Like you just keep opening doors, and it's like sometimes it's a bathroom, sometimes it's a back alley, sometimes it's stairs to go to another floor. The bad reputation that guy had given me was really false. That being said, it definitely is a more sexualized bar than the average gay bar, which is saying a lot. It's the kind of bar where you can always expect some kind of gay porn to be playing on the TVs, instead of like, here's our happy hour menu. What I find interesting about the Eagle is, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, I love the Eagle because I feel comfortable there in my body. Like men who maybe are more heavy set or don't fit into the stereotypical, gay scene, they feel more at ease there, and they feel that it's less judgmental, especially if they're of a certain age. But I can tell you that being somebody in his 20s who has gone there a bunch of times in New York, sometimes I have felt that it's more judgmental than a lot of the other bars, because it is so sexualized, and a lot of guys come there with an agenda that they're almost kind of ruthless. Like they're on the hunt, and if you're in their way, it's like, shh. I have met a lot of jerks there. I've met jerks at every bar, but I do think there's this assumption that the Eagle is like more mellow, and it's like more masculine guys, so there's more of a camaraderie, and I don't think that that's true. I think that at the end of the day, the people make up the bar. I don't think any bar has its own energy. I think different crowds come in all the time, and sometimes you meet nice people and sometimes you meet jerks. I don't think that's an Eagle thing. Now, of course, the important thing to mention about the Eagle is that after a certain hour, once most people are pretty drunk, that's when things get a bit seedier. Like anytime I've been to the Eagle at, 11 p.m. or midnight, people are just hanging out, having a drink, and then it's like, it's like clockwork. At a certain hour, there's guys doing stuff in the corners, and then spectators. And it's funny because there's always some bouncer who comes in and is like, break it up, like trying to end any kind of sexual activity that takes place. But it happens, I'm sure, every night at this bar. So it's just funny that they try to control it, and the bar is known for this. and yet they keep trying to have this maintain this appearance that they can't do this in this bar, even though a lot of people go there either to participate in that or to see it, like, out of pure curiosity. Now, what's interesting is the one in LA is totally different, and I have to say, after you've been to the one in New York City, and again, I don't know how the one in San Francisco is, I'm sure that one's nutty too, and I don't know how any of the other ones are, but after you've been to the one in New York City, going to the one in LA feels just so dull. The one in LA is just one floor. First floor, there's an outdoor area, like a patio or courtyard type area, and then a few different rooms inside. But overall, it's just less exciting than the New York City one. What's interesting is it's less sexualized from the 3 times probably that I've gone, but there's other stuff happening that is, I would say, weirder. Like, not as sexual necessarily, but more sort of fetish type stuff that's very specific. So for example, the first time I went, there were people laying on a table getting hot wax dripped on them, and it was like a BDSM type thing. Another time I went to the Eagle, there were guys getting shaved, like full body shaved, on stage, and that was like the act of the night. Another time I went, and I'm used to going to gay bars where they show porn on the screens. That's not that unusual at a gay bar. It doesn't have to be the Eagle for that to happen. But the entire time that I was there, every TV was showing the exact same porno, and it was a fisting porno.
Where are you going? What are you talking about?
I was like, this is too much for me. Like, every time I looked up, it was like Big Brother. All the screens showing the same thing, and it was just too much for me to handle. So it's weird because the LA one in person is more kosher and vanilla, but it's weirder. Like, the things that are happening to me made me more uncomfortable than the actual sexual stuff at the Eagle in New York City. All those things aside, the communities are exactly the same. Most people are just there hanging out, getting a drink, and at both bars in LA and New York City, it's mostly older guys of a certain age, certain sort of aesthetic, more rugged, hairy, less like, posh and polished, yuppie, like the West Hollywood bars or like the Hell's Kitchen type bars of New York City. But there are those fundamental differences, and that's my takeaway of the Eagle in New York versus the Eagle in Los Angeles. Again, if you guys have stories to share about those 2 bars or any of the other Eagles in the world, I would love to hear it in the comments.